What's up, y'all? This is Thing Dear More. This is a different type of video. This is more of a perspective, opinionated type of video. Have you? Someone asked me, why is Christianity dying? And I share my perspective with a lot of people, and it's very different. I'm gonna just get into it, and then we can talk about my background later. But Christianity, I don't think it's not dying. It's just not the most popular way of getting to God or source have you. I mean, I think what people forget is that they think that Christianity is end all be all. And what I mean by end all be all is like everything is based off of Christianity. No, that's not the truth. You know, what Christianity fails to realize and what a lot of people fail to realize about Christianity is that it's just an aspect of God or source. I believe that everybody's story is true. And when I say that, I mean, like, you got people from America saying it's Christianity, and then you got people from overseas. It's like, yo, the Americans came over here, or the Westerners, or however you have came over here and changed everybody to Christianity. But before that, or those that don't practice Christianity, you notice that there are some of the same stories, similar stories. And to me, when you have a story, it's going to exist. But guess what? People are going to tell it differently. That's that childhood game we used to play, telephone. One person starts off whispering something, and we see if it's the same thing when we get to the end. And I think that that's basically what happened. With all of these different religions, something happened, and everybody from a different aspect or a different perspective told what they saw or what they perceived. And that's how you got all these different religions and sectors of how to get to God or source. So I wouldn't say that Christianity is dying. I'm thinking people are beginning to realize that Christianity is not the only way to source. Um, I was also asked, like, why are people shying away from Christianity? And I think that people who were raised in Christianity, myself included, it's like a cap. And when I say cap, I'm not talking about a lie. I mean, literally, a cap. When you go to church, if you were born in Christianity, this is how it was for me. And, for some people that I know that practice Christianity, if you started out as a child doing it, your parents took you to church, you went to Sunday school, you went to church, and they taught you the stories, the stories of Noah, the stories of Moses, and, things of that nature. And you learn these stories, and they all have lessons in them, whereas you learn their parables that you're supposed to take the lesson out of and apply them to your life. And then when you get to teenagers, you become to maybe identify a little bit more of what being a part of your religion or your belief is really about, whether you're in it or you don't really care for it. If you choose to be in it, you're having an introduction to spirituality, if you're thinking about it, because now you really believe this without someone telling you to believe. You're going to this source on your own, even though you may not understand what the source is. That's what, church is really supposed to be for, to guide you along that journey of what source is, how to build a connection with him, how to build a relationship with him. Um, I grew up in a time where it was very radical, that Kirk Franklin era. So, you know, I grew up in that era where we were tired of doing the traditional ways. And as you know, in the Bible, it speaks to that, the old ways and the new ways. That's where you have the Old Testament and you have the New Testament. And, you know, they're drastically different if you think about it. The Old Testament had these 10 commandments, rigid. Then New Testament, you have, okay, just ask for forgiveness and it's done, you know? And I think that with Christianity, we learned all of these things. So now you're a teenager, right? Okay, that's why I left off. You're a teenager, right? And then you discover that, okay, yeah, God really does exist, or source really is there, or spirit really does help. But then when you get sent off from your protective space, your home, your guardianship of whoever is, whoever's taking care of you, whoever your safe zone is, wherever your safe space is, when you leave that and you go out into the world for the first time, it's almost like it's a culture shock. Yes, it's a culture shock because you may have not been exposed to these things before, and that's how you get your experiences. But the problem is you get out there and you've never even heard of these things. You have no idea how to even combat these things. You are ashamed to even come to say anything about some of these things because it's so unheard of. Or not because it's so unheard of, just in your religion or your practice, you're not supposed to speak of these things. And I think that that's where Christianity starts to lose people because when they get older, they don't come back. That's what you normally hear. They go off to college. Some may come back for a little bit, help out a little bit, and then they just kind of leave again. Some of those people find other church homes that suit them and their needs and their families. Um, or some other people, like myself, start to challenge what happened. I was a big Jesus freak, like a huge Jesus freak. So for me to step away from the church was a big deal. It wasn't something that I just said, oh no, this isn't working, and I walked away. No, I really thought about this. Now, do I still believe in Jesus? Yes. But do I believe in you? Yes. I mean, I don't think that Christianity has given a realistic light of what is really taking place in the Bible. I'm not saying that to say that Christianity is wrong. I'm not saying that to say that, oh my God, Christianity is of the devil. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just think that man has come in and twisted some ways about how source really is and have limited people from getting to source. Coming back to church after leaving, going off to college and living my life was not easy because I still found myself in feelings, emotions, situations that I felt I still didn't have the answers to combat that. And I read the Bible for myself plenty of times. I mean, I think now I have a different understanding of it than I did back then when I was going to church. But it's because you can only learn so much with Christianity because some things are forbidden to talk about. There's limitations. And I believe that if you're going to teach about a God that is all powerful, there can be no limitation on him. There can be no comprehension on what is with him or her or whatever this entity is. And I was always taught that you try every spirit, which it states that in the Bible. But just because people have titles, does that not mean we challenge what they say? They talk about how a lot were called, but few were chosen. In the Bible, it speaks about how people were called to do these things in the church, to do these offices in the church, but you don't hear about that anymore. You hear these people saying, they wanted to do it. It was a plausible thing to do, a practical thing. They had an interest. No, if you read the Bible, it wasn't an interest for these people. This was their life, and it was adamant, or not adamant, but it was very much understood that politics and religion didn't mix. But now it's like religion is so political now. And it just seems that when I was going to church and then reading the Bible along with what they were saying, it just seemed like it contradicted each other. Not so much as the words, because, the words sounded right, but in my spirit, it just contradicted each other. So, I'm sorry, it's my car. But, you know, I think that when it contradicts, it requires research because source is not something of confusion, I believe. And if it's causing confusion, then it requires research. Um, Maybe not so much as research, but understanding, maybe. I found that there are things in the Bible that you don't hear people speak about. It's almost like they ping pong between the typical Bible stories and then they slap you with a good word to follow for the next week, and sometimes it seems as though what you need help with may not be in that good word, you know. And I mean, we could talk about it, if you want me to talk about it, but there are different things that afflict people, these principalities, things of that nature. People like to say all the time, oh, I don't believe in spirits. Yes, you do. You just don't know you do. You just don't know who the spirits are, or you don't have a discerning spirit where you can identify one. But yes, you do. And this whole world is ran spiritually. A lot of people don't realize that, but it is. And those are some of the things that I think Christianity lacks in teaching. They don't teach you about spiritual warfare. Yeah, they do, put on the breastplate of righteousness and all that. But when I say spirituality, I mean to look something in its face and cast it back to where it came from. And no, I'm not saying that to excommunicate or exorcise a demon out. I'm not saying all that. But I'm saying if you need to stand your ground and be somewhere, you need to know that you're that powerful. You don't have to call Pastor so-and-so to do anything for you, because in the Bible it says that you can do these things. Like when Jesus came along, he didn't say, oh, let me go get my pastor from the temple to do these things for me. No, he did it himself. And he says that I am made in God's image. You are made in God's image. So if we're all made in his image, was Jesus not meant to follow for an example? Now, don't get me wrong. Church has made Jesus so high up above and made him just untouchably perfect. But there's a reason that we hear about all these different stories of who's related to who, and he begat this and he begat that, begat, and he had this person and he had that person, right? But when you get to Jesus, we hear about his birth all in detail, right? We hear other people's perspective of how they think he was, right? And then we all find out that this is what, maybe a week or 3 days or so before he's about to be crucified. Now, to me, common sense would say, why would you follow a man or believe in a man that you've only known about 4 days? His whole life that we're following is only summed up as 4 days in the Bible. There are reasons they cut that out. You want to know why? Because Jesus was a human being. He's messed up sometimes. He's made some mistakes. So they cut all that out. And we could talk about that in a whole nother series. If y'all want to hear about that, comment. But the point I'm making is that everything that he says you can do, you can do. It doesn't mean to make Jesus bigger than life. No. Jesus is the word. He came here to highlight the word. If you turn your eyes to the word as opposed to focusing on what was appeared before you, and you turn your eyes to the word, you'll learn that the Bible is really a way to show you how to manifest. That's what Jesus was doing. If you so believe the desires of your heart, then you can have it. Like if God's source is telling you that you can have these things if you desire them in your heart, he'll give them to you. And then he tells you, I will send my comforter. Comforter is supposed to be spirit, right? So do you not have spirit helping you along the way to get the things that you want out of life? You know what I mean? And then I know you're like, well, where does Jesus come in with that? Jesus is the word. I mean, I don't think that Jesus ever wanted anybody to be worshiping him. I think he just wanted to point to you that, look, if you speak the word, know the word, and live the word, then you'll be able to do everything that I'm doing. I think that's why he was so annoyed sometimes. And I know you're like, what? He was annoyed? Yeah, he was. Read the scripture. He does not oh my God, bless the people. No, that is not him. He's like, oh my God, look, I'm about to die in 3 days and y'all people still don't believe. Why am I even wasting my breath on you people? Oh my God. But I'm going to do my part. And let's be real. You're like that with some people that you're trying to help out. Okay. Yeah, I can't believe you acting like this, but I'm going to do my part and try to help you get through this. Oh my God. So, I mean, he was human. I think that's what Christianity or most religions, I can't speak on other religions because I never practice other religions. So that's why I say Christianity because that's what I grew up in. But I feel like that's where Christianity lacks. That's why people are shying away from it. You know, you go from Christianity to venture off to find answers. Because Christianity isn't providing those answers or they don't want to address it. And a lot of times, what people don't know is they don't address it because they don't know. Only a person that's actually called to do those offices can give you that answer. Why? Because those answers are inspired from spirit, from source. That's like getting in a car. If you don't have the key, you can't get in that car. Now, if you break in, isn't that called stealing? You're not going to have everything that you're supposed to have because you had to break in this car. You can't ride freely and do what you need to do. No, you can't even give people a ride because they're going to know it's stolen. But when it's your car, when you have the key, when you can get in and ride it and move and park it how you want to, then you have the answers. And I don't know if some of you followed me on that one, but the point that's being made is that a person who does not have the key to that knowledge is not going to be able to lead someone who needs that key or that answer. They're going to leave feeling empty, this person who's looking for the key. They're going to leave feeling confused, incomplete. And a lot of times I feel like that's what Christianity does to some of the greatest people. It leaves people looking for answers. And I'm talking about talented, gifted people. They're looking for answers, but Christianity will, or maybe we'll say the church, I don't know how you want to identify with it. They shun people for their ideas, for their thoughts, not knowing that maybe some of these thoughts or ideas were in fact inspired. You know, if we want to look at it, Jesus was a radical. That was radical for his time, whether we want to look at it as being radical or not. But yeah, it was radical. So sometimes it takes a lot. No, I'm not going to say sometimes. It takes a lot for someone to come forward and say something different from what the tradition is. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong. I think that there are some people, pastors have you, elders have you. There are some people that are called in Christianity that are teaching this. I'm not going to discredit Christianity altogether because I believe the road that I'm on is because of some of the people that were in my life that are pastors. They were influential in my life, and they were the ones who perpetuated to continually seek source, God. So, yeah, that's just my little rant on why I think Christianity, why I think Christianity is fading out, why it's not dying, but just not as popular. I think one thing, again, I would reiterate Christianity needs to realize is that it's not the only way. It's just one of the bridges that connect you to source. I think it all just depends on what bridge you take. If you're from somewhere else, you may not have heard of Christianity and you know of the stories and everything, but you get different rituals have you. And a lot of people don't understand the rituals are things that you do over and over habitually. And last time I checked, we don't really have them, so to speak, in the Bible in the New Testament. When I say we don't really have them, As far as the Last Supper, he did say, "Do this in remembrance of me," but I don't recall him saying, like, yo, get dressed up, wear all white, put a veil over your head, come down here, make sure it's wine, make sure it's bread, the rules, the doctrine of the rules and all of that and how you're supposed to be. Even with the church situation, I understand the church to be the body in the Bible, not an actual building. So when people, you haven't been to church? Yes, I have. How? Well, I was talking with this person and I were there. So, where two are surely gathered, Jesus is there, or God, source, you know, spirit, however you want to label it. The entity that I believe in is there, so we're having church. I don't recall Jesus saying that he went to Temple Bishop so and so or by the riverside or whatever. He just went. He went where the people were. So the people are the church. So if you or two or three people are together and you're speaking of the goodwill and talking about how you can be better or what can be better, and I'm not talking politics. I'm just saying, like, as far as worshiping spiritually, going to a higher place within yourself. You talking like that, yeah. Don't think that source is not going to show up and say, okay, I see you. Spirit is a very showy type energy. If you ask, he will show. So that's just my take on Christianity. I have these little moments where I just venture off and rant a little bit about Christianity because I was a Jesus freak. I was a diehard, every day going to church and all activities. But now I don't go to church. Now you can catch me on the next series if you want to hear more. Just like and share, subscribe. But I think church is dead. I don't think Christianity is dead, but I do think church is dead. So, if you want to hear more, just like, share, subscribe. My name is Ding Dia Moore, and I'm out.